Greetings, fellow adventurers, and welcome to the Couple of Nerds podcast. I'm DnDWife, the creator of DnDWifeStories.com, and your co-host. Joining me is the man behind the screen, my brilliant dungeon master, and also my husband, Eguile. Say hi, Eguile.
Hey everyone, excited to be here sharing our nerdy adventures with all of you.
Absolutely. So what's Couple of Nerds all about? Well, we're diving into the realms of Extrayus, sharing our experiences, playing D&D in our apartment, and exploring the intricate tapestry of relationships both in and out of the game.
And we got some exciting segments for you all, from lore deep dives to crafting tips, artwork showcases, and relationship advice on and off the table. We've got a little bit of everything for every kind of adventurer.
So whether you're a seasoned adventurer or a tabletop newbie, we invite you to join us today. Tune in, relax, and enjoy the magic of Couple of Nerds. May your rolls be natural 20s and your adventures be legendary. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Couple of Nerds. I'm your host, DnDWife, and with me is my co-host and husband, Dungeon Master Eguile.
How's it going, everyone?
Welcome, welcome.
I'm really excited because we're going to get into another lore drop. And what really makes this difference, now most of our lore drops, we kind of really get into the finer details of the kind of the world that we've created of Extrayus, our homebrew world that we've created for our Dungeons and Dragon campaign. But this is kind of going to be a really important one that we felt is going to take more than just one episode to get through.
Yes.
A lot. And so we're going into an even deeper deep dive, looking into the magic of Extrayus and how we created the magical array that governs the magic of our world.
Yeah, you know, because magic is really all around us, whether it's IRL in the real world. We see it, you know, in media, anime, shows, movies. Magic's everywhere. Historical documents also. You know, we used to think about magic all the time when the world was up and coming.
I mean, if it was unexplainable, it was magic.
And because of that, they've suffused magic into the TTRPGs we love to play now.
I mean, right? It's kind of almost like you kind of look like, so for me, for instance, I'm really into like Arthurian magic and kind of the old English high fantasy Tolkien-esque magic, you know, where it's like fireballs and lightning, you know, but I've never really gone much deeper than like that in terms of my exploration of magic.
Yeah, you know, we really have to kind of do a deep dive into magic itself and how we got our influences for how we created the magic for Extrayus.
Oh, yeah, because I mean, between, you know, from our personal backgrounds and we kind of wanted to merge kind of both of our philosophies when it came to our beliefs on magic and how we wanted it to work in our world. And so I think we came to this kind of cool, kind of interlocking kind of philosophy that really started the ground roots for Extrayus to begin with.
Yeah, you know, we both have separate influences, but I think they both bring unique sort of balances to the system that we've created. For example, on my end, my influences really come from historical depictions of magic. I consider myself sort of an amateur scholar of historical accounts of magic.
I mean, you are a history major.
Yeah, well, I have a degree in history, you know, so I just really like looking at the ancient world and what we thought of then. And there are a lot of ideas around gods in that time and their powers, but the idea that humans could possess godlike powers, that seems strange to me. So I've sort of taken a scientific approach to historical magic and trying to see if, you know, maybe there was something to it. Maybe it exists.
And I mean, you can even check out like on our YouTube short we posted the other day, you could see kind of your altar that we have set up in our home.
I did that today.
Oh, it was today. Sorry, my bad.
No worries. But yeah, you can kind of see some of the symbolism I have in there just from the different points of research I've done and different influences that I've taken from different things. I just think it's fun to explore those symbolisms, those imageries, and it helps kind of apply that to a system that we can put in a world.
Plus, I mean, when we first started, I was always like, hey, you set up whatever you feel comfortable with, because I knew it was part of who you are. You know, because for me, it's a little different as being kind of an avid gamer and just kind of fantasy, you know, lover. It was more of the kind of fantasy side of it. Much more kind of the mechanical-esque, you know, I grew up on Final Fantasy, so it's fire, Fyra, Viagra.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, yeah, it's how spells power up. You just add more letters to the end of it, and it's more powerful, and it costs more magic points. So I think that kind of, for me, changed kind of how I view magic, as it's more of this kind of like this ability you get depending on what you are, and essentially the idea of being like, oh, you're a fighter, no magic for you. Okay, you're the wizard, all the magic for you.
Yeah.
And so I think that really kind of created that dichotomy between you and I, because I had this much more structural, systematic look to magic, where it's like, oh yeah, levels, spell slots, makes total point. You gotta get XP, you gotta level up. Versus you're looking at the historical context and how they interact, where I would be coming up with ideas and you're like, well, wait, how does that interact with something else? I'm like, well, no, it's just, I won't give it to him till level 5.
Yeah. I like to think that we bring the two unique sort of aspects to magic in Extrayus. I bring the stylistic, the sort of wording of the magic, and you bring the structure, the rules of the magic into place. And so it helps create one functioning system.
Yeah, because in our early campaigns, and with the thing like the wish spell, and we had a high level wizard towards the end of the first campaign, but he kind of knew that like, if he used wish, he had to be very, very careful with the wording.
Oh yeah, because our DM Eguile over here loves wordplay, loves to kind of see how words can be twisted or misconstrued or have different meaning.
And I think also what's a big difference from like a lot of standard TTRPG worlds is that I wanted a world where like magic is kind of fruitful, but also couldn't be overwhelming. And I think that's a hard balance to generate. And I think as we'll go in more, the consequence system of overusing magic
is real in Extrayus.
No one really wants to take that wild magic roulette.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do it. But when you're stuck in a world where overconsumption of magic just means it can blow up in your face at any moment, it kind of makes the players and the NPCs all kind of really take that understanding of, okay, yes, I have unlimited power, but that unlimited power can also blow up in my face.
Yeah, because Extrayus is essentially made of magic and therefore exudes magic into its very atmosphere. It really shows how big of a role magic plays in Extrayus with how intricately it's connected to the world itself.
Oh yeah, and so like for our array, like the way, or we call it our array, but it's essentially the magical system of our world. And kind of what we wanted to do was create kind of a magical hierarchy within the magic itself, so that we could kind of explain, okay, how does this magic interact with another, or how did this magic originate?
Which ones
to
are the
begin
opposites of each other?
Right. And so the big thing, and if you've been following these lore drops, you know that the first kind of cosmic creation that is the center of Extrayus' being is the void.
Yeah. First step, void.
Right. And so we have kind of dubbed the void as like the evolution magic, this kind of grand scheme of life and survival that is mostly focused on pushing creatures to their evolutional pinnacle.
Yeah. The void is all about surviving and doing everything that is needed to survive.
Right. And since it's that, it does pretty much govern the rest of the magics in the world, because they all kind of come through the various principles that the void exudes.
Yeah. Everything is a little aspect of it. So, surrounding the void are the other aspects of the magic.
Kind of like our other major magics is the way to look at it.
So the two closest are going to be cosmic magic and chaos magic. Those are closer to the void than anything else.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with those two is that whereas cosmic in our world, as again, hearing these lore drops, you learn a little more about these kind of hidden drops, is that cosmic magic is more of our universal creation magic. And so it's more of the natural magic.
Yeah.
But to counterbalance that, we have our chaos magic,
which is the other side of the coin,
and is a artificial magic that was created during the reaping games that were occurring on Extrayus.
Yeah.
And so they tangent into the next two that are closest to themselves.
Well, actually, there's something in between.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, the next layer above that is primal magic.
That's right. Gotta always remember those prime basic elements.
Just
the building
natural
blocks,
magic in the world.
right? The building blocks of essentially all the matter in Extrayus. And as the world itself, there's kind of little bits of primal magic that just kind of suffuse the air that allow for certain species to channel certain abilities that look like magic, but isn't really magic. They're just using that natural magic in the air.
Yeah, and surrounding primal, of course, are the four elements: wind, air, fire, and earth.
And all the hybrids in between.
Yep, everything in between that encompassing that. And so the next layer after the elements is going to be the four overarching magics of order, divine, fey, and demonic.
Yeah, and I like to call this kind of more of like the influencing ring of the magic, because it's kind of all of these forces. So take an example of order, are all kind of the natural forces that just kind of occur and place their influence on the world. So for order, it's like life, death, birth, all of those stages that kind of need to happen, day,
that
night,
mark the passage
that
of
need
time.
to occur to order for existence to occur. And then we have also, like in your domain with the Fae.
Yeah, the Fae are they're more about puzzles, games, riddles. So they're more unpredictable in the way that they interact with the world. They represent a sort of unpredictability and the fun that is dangerous.
Yeah, and then like for example, the demonic side now in other kind of literature or styles of games, that's more of this kind of like heaven hell kind of thing.
Yeah.
But ours is more the kind of manifestation of states of like anger and kind of the strength that comes through that coalesced into these
different
things.
emotions that created
Rage, jealousy, all the hateful things that just kind of create themselves their own power, and through that influence, it kind of created its own existence, its own people, and put that influence on Extrayus itself.
Yep.
But that's not the last one in that ring.
No, if there's demonic, then there must also be divine.
Yes.
Even though it's a very young sort of part of the array, because it's just beginning.
That will definitely be a very interesting deep dive, because there's a lot of knowledge in that section that is going to kind of change a lot of the way you'll see Extrayus.
Because it's just beginning, but it's going to be probably a big player.
Oh, yeah. And so after that, we have kind of the next ring outside of that.
Yep. And that's the arcane magic layer, which just ties all of those together.
Right, because I always believe that kind of arcane was kind of this muddled kind of magic that it's like, you spend your whole life or you're magically gifted, but really at the same time, you're just kind of pulling together pieces of magic. So it's a little bit of column A, a little column B, and I happen to get a not so big spell that was probably once a much larger spell.
So arcane really just ties together order, divinity, demonic, and fey energies, and shares natures of each of them.
Yeah, and the reason we put it obviously on the outermost layer is also that there's so many breakdowns to Arcane. There's so many schools, and when we go into the deep dive, there's also a few unique schools that we have created specifically for Extrayus. But one of the more unique aspects, and this is what we kind of came up at the end as we were making one of the other player characters. Always check out Bricky. You can see kind of how this came about. But we introduced another unique magic. Yeah,
and this magic is a sort of irregularity in the world. It's psionic magic. It's its own thing in our world because it's completely new. It's completely different, and nobody's really seen it before even in the short history of Extrayus. It's brand new.
Oh yeah, as we've been playing in the story, one of our player characters happens to have these kind of abilities, and their player themselves doesn't really know or understand where these abilities are originated from.
Yeah, we have no idea if they're just a natural sort of part of the person, if they're acquired, if they're given, nobody knows yet. And so what we've done is we've sort of made it not necessarily it's a part of the array, but it's a sort of irregular part. It doesn't share the same shape as everything.
Yeah, and it goes into kind of the explanation as to why psionic is so unique, in that it kind of dodges some aspects and rules of the magical system, but also
Yeah.
is forced and bound by others. And so as the story will progress, we'll find out more about why this is such a unique power, which is why we'll save it for our very last deep dive. But if you are interested in seeing this magical array, be sure to check out our Extrayus Project Discord, where we submit all of our early art. It's the first stop for all of our early videos, our art. So if you ever want to see what we're talking about the same day of, please go there. Come on, join us. We're always welcoming anyone and looking for new kind of recruits and new questions to even deeper into the lore of Extrayus.
Yeah, if you want, right then and there on the spot answers, always come to the Discord. We can talk to you guys and let you know exactly what the answers might be for those questions.
And so the way we made the array, we really wanted to focus that all of the magics both interacted positively and negatively to kind of really create this balance. And a big thing that we did to create this kind of synergy is, and I stress it very hard in our campaign, is that all of these magics have very unique signatures. And for us, that's related to color and design. So, for a quick little surprise hint. So for ours, the Fey energy are these prismatic bubbles that just kind of appear when they touch things. It begins to kind of change it into more fancy and kind of more crazy, monstrosities.
Yeah, it's like a kaleidoscope of colors almost.
Right. So when you start essentially the more magic sensitive or visually sensitive players, when they kind of start seeing oh, that's cool. And then they start realizing, wait, these aren't good bubbles.
No, not good bubbles.
And it kind of creates a very unique way that the magics kind of both represent themselves in the world and also how they play with the other magics, so that they're kind of both always represented, but also always have a chance to kind of balance one or the other out.
Yeah, and some might think that your bubbles are so innocuous, they can't be any dangerous. But that's kind of why we wanted to make the unique little aspects of how the magic interacted and appeared in the world, because something as, unassuming as bubbles could be really terrifying.
And that brings to a really good point that you and I were talking about, in that you really have to look at the kind of the symbolism that is created from your magic, both intentional and unintentional. Because a lot of times, like we talked in the beginning, is that there's so many different interpretations of magic. There's so much literature that you can use off that you could unintentionally create a symbolism that both is positive and can be negative.
Yeah. And it might not be viewed as well, but we happened upon a type of symbology that was sort of accidental in the way that the world has just been progressing.
And every time we kind of try to second guess, it's oh no, I must have told you about this, or you must have seen this before. So we're trying to make it sound like it's serendipitous, but it's but really it's stuff that we're working independently on, and then we come together and realize that we're on the same page.
Yeah, so the sort of accidental symbolism that we created in our magical array and in the world of Extrayus now is this symbolism of eyes.
Yeah, even within the content of my campaign, and if you listen to the Traveler's Chronicles, we're about to kind of start getting into the story specifically, and you're gonna see this kind of eye symbology that
popping up.
I unintentionally, as well as another player, also unintentionally created.
Yeah, it's not something that we planned on or anything that was supposed to be part of the campaign or the world. It just ended up that way.
And I think that's how we knew we were on the right page, right? When it just all starts balancing and starts kind of connecting without your really doing or trying. And I think that's really the glory of creating these kind of things. And when you kind of know you're on the right page.
Yeah, that makes me feel like we're on the right track.
Yeah, it was funny because you had pulled out your sketch pad and you kind of started drawing, because I was kind of describing, okay, here's how I want it to look.
Yeah, this is what it looks like.
Once we finished up and you kind of zoomed out, you're going, it's an eye again.
Yeah, it's an eyeball.
Yeah, it's straight up an eyeball.
Yeah.
So it was we did it again. And so it was just kind of okay, no, we know that this is that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's I guess eyes are a thing now.
And if you out there, any of our listeners have any kind of same thing, if you have any kind of unusual symbolism that just comes out of nowhere. Something that just becomes like an idol to your party. Let us know. Come on to our YouTube, come on to our Discord and tell us about these, because we can't be the only ones that have these kind of weird coincidences come about like this. I feel like there are others out there that have felt the same.
And I'd love to hear what other accidental symbology might have popped up. Like maybe it's like flowers or something.
Yeah, right. Like or like, that prize goblin that becomes their their Dalai Lama, and now they carry
There's
it around.
There's a religion now.
I mean, we've had a few situations like that in previous campaigns.
Yep.
And I think that's also important to look at when you're making this like magical system, because you can make this grand where at a blink of an eye I can summon a castle, I can make a kingdom. It's like, okay, but how does that work in your world? Like, does that just mean like the farmer's daughter can just summon a herd of cows and they milk themselves
because magic is just a part of the world?
Everybody can just do magic, and it's so fantastical that there's no reason to never cast it,
and in
or
a way,
not cast it.
Right? And in a way, they can sort of, but it also depends on the sort of levels that they've achieved.
Yeah.
So like you said, a farmer's daughter isn't gonna be a 10th level anything.
See, and so that's like also the problems with being a DM too, is like you're like, okay, well, if I make a world full of crazy magic, everyone can cast spells. Well, obviously my players are gonna go, okay, well then we can cast spells.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of balance that out. And I think we really came to a good point with Extrayus, in that Extrayus, yes, is this boundless sense of possibility with magic, where 9th and 10th level spells are common occurrences before the Reaping Games.
Yep.
So because of the creation of chaos magic, that's kind of glommed onto the world of Extrayus. So in our world, heavy magic usage causes you to roll
bad
on what I have created as multiple levels of the wild magic table. And you do not want to roll on these tables.
I am so worried because my character is a magic caster. I am so worried about that when we get to that point.
So that way it is this idea of that, yes, you can cast, but
it comes at a price.
Every spell is going to be rolled on a roulette. It could go great. It could go horrible. I mean, I remember I had to put I made sure to put the reincarnation, thing on the wild magic. And I know you hate that. The idea of losing your character because you cast, dancing lights.
I have made I love my character. I do not want to lose her. And if I have to reincarnate, it's not Luna anymore. It's Muna.
Or if everyone suddenly gets turned into sheep or something like like Baldur's Gate 3.
I guess we just live like this now.
So it really kind of puts that into check. And then because also we have so many other types of magics that kind of play in, there's a lot of hybrids kind of magic. So as we've kind of alluded in some, we have a nation by the name of Undabar.
Yeah.
And this is one that kind of uses more kind of like necrotech and stuff, where it's more of a combination of arcane arts and technology and science and biology. So it is this combination of both magic infused with science. But then we have like the people of the Dimon, where it is entirely technology.
They reject magic completely.
Any spell, you can do that. We'll make us an ability, an item. We'll make some sort of gadget that'll do the exact same thing.
Because magic is so unpredictable, they just don't want to take the chance.
And we call that tech magic. It's not technically magic because it's tech.
Yeah.
And one of our players, who is a magicless fairy, who we'll learn about more hopefully pretty soon, she uses these techs instead. So she can replicate certain spells, but they're done through a technological framework.
Yeah, and they require maintenance, and
so her enchantments are modifications, they function like enchantments, but they're given a spin because
considered something else.
They have a different theme.
Yeah, it's really cool, applying a sort of magical aspect to technology. It's like, well, it's not really magic, but we're replicating the effect. So it's kind of like magic.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's how it really comes true, too, with also how the players are. So another way to interact with it is because the way our planet is kind of spread out, there are very much different levels of magic and development of that magic. So in the Mirren continent, magic's not really common. So one of our players is one of like the first Mirren to ever have access to healing magic.
Yeah, or any magic at all.
Right. And so that idea of that this goes on, he kind of knew early on that he can't really showboat
too
because
much.
of the implication of being kind of like one of the first like true healers. And so it kind of creates that idea where it's not just, oh, everyone knows magic. It's such a common thing, so I don't ever have to explain how I can make fire with my hands.
Right.
No, there are some places in the world of Extrayus that they're going to call you a witch and try to burn you.
Oh yeah, there are places,
or maybe put you out. I don't know.
Or exile you,
Yeah.
whatever. Like there are places, just like the Dimon they reject all magic. They won't kick you out, but they just won't talk to you. They won't interact with you. There are some places that will react violently towards people with magic because they're like, you could kill us, like don't. It's like walking in here with something to explode.
And then the thing that's also is interesting is it's not just obviously the countries or the races or the people, but the lands itself also have their own kind of magical forces at work with chaos points and fracture points, which we'll get into more detail soon.
Oh yeah, there are places where things are going crazy.
Right, and these influences that the kind of landscape and the terrain create also change the people, what cities might be there, if it's something of extremely high magic or extremely low magic.
Sometimes it can affect the animals, the plants.
I mean, we've already had our run-in with the flying whales. That was pretty interesting.
You'll find out soon. Keep on listening.
That's a Traveler's Chronicles coming up soon. But it definitely shows that there are both positives and negatives of our magic, so that it's not just everyone in the world is Gandalf and everyone can just summon everything they want.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of checks and balances. And as I was saying, because all of the magics are very unique in their kind of creation and their design and look, there is this way for the world to really distinguish between types of magics. And so it's like, oh, arcane caster, oh, primal user. But the thing is with these kind of newer or more obscure magics, some of our players have to deal with a side effect of, ooh, I have to hide what I have. And it kind of reminds me of like DBZ and kind of that idea of like you have to hide your
power level.
Make sure that your magic's not showing, because if like they see it, it's like, hey, I've never seen that color before. Right. What are you?
And just like DBZ, they have devices or things or abilities that allow them to see what type of magic you have.
And one of our players had happened to build one early in the campaign, knowing that they wanted to make sure, but at the time they were only looking for one kind of energy source.
But honestly, it is coming super handy for the campaign, so I'm super happy with it.
So really what it was we wanted to kind of start off of why and how we came together in order to make the magical array of Extrayus.
Yeah, and give you kind of a background as to what went into it, the ingredients sort of that came into it.
So really after this is we're going to be deep diving into each. And first we're going to look at void magic, the magic that started it all, and we're going to get into the entirety of what exactly void magic is, and hopefully you'll stay with us through this kind of set series of deep diving into our magical array of Extrayus.
It's going to be in depth, but if you're a magic lover like I am, whether it's in the real world or in TTRPGs, you're going to want to stick around to find out.
Oh yeah. And as always, we thank all of you out there. We're almost to 500 views on YouTube. We are so excited. We never thought we would get something like this so soon. We've only been for 3 months now.
Yeah.
But we thank you all once again. So please, if you can out there, subscribe to us at Couple of Nerds podcast on YouTube, as well as our Extrayus Project Discord.
Yep. Thank you so much. And if you really like the episode, let us know by reviewing in the comments below or on YouTube.
And be sure to let us know if you have any of those crazy symbols that go in your party. We definitely want to know. We definitely want to hear about that.
We'd love to hear from you.
And be sure to check out, after the airing of this episode, we'll be sure to put up the magical array on our Discord so you can check it out there.
Absolutely. And if you don't have the link, you can comment below and we will send it to you. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. And that concludes today's journey through the realm of Couple of Nerds. We hope you had a blast exploring the intricate world of Extrayus. Don't miss out on the visual extravaganza over at our YouTube page at Couple of Nerds Podcast. It's where the magic comes to life with exclusive video segments, art previews, and a peek behind the curtain.
Dive deeper into our adventures by visiting DnDWifeStories.com, your haven for all our podcast transcripts and a treasure trove of content dedicated to the captivating universe of Extrayus.
Your unwavering support is our greatest treasure. Take a moment to weave your thoughts into a review and hit that subscribe button for an enchanting journey with couple of nerds.
Join us beyond the podcast in the Extrayus Project Discord. Connect with us, the creators, and even the travelers themselves. Witness the magic unfold in live drawing streams, game alongside us, and step into our digital tavern, the Bard's Haven. Share your stories and characters with fellow adventurers. Visit DnDWifeStories.com for the link to join our vibrant community.
Stay tuned for more tales, more laughs, and more insight into the world of tabletop gaming. Until then, may your dice be kind, your campaigns epic, and your adventures legendary.